UFC 277 went down on Saturday night, and it was all about the main event that involved arguably the greatest women's fighter in MMA history, Amanda Nunes. Nunes shockingly lost her bantamweight title in December to Julianna Peña, but on Saturday night in a rematch, she regained her belt after vowing to get it back. And here with me to talk about Peña and Nunes 2 is freelance combat sports journalist Bryan Fonseca. Bryan, how you doing, man?
Doing well, doing better than Julianna Peña this morning. That's probably the only time I'll be able to say that, but yeah.
Yes, she had a rough night. Who didn't? That was Amanda Nunes. And Amanda Nunes, when she lost in December, as you know, Bryan, it was a huge upset. So what was different about Nunes facing Peña in the second fight?
Well, Julianna Peña was able to come forward in the first fight in a way that shocked a lot of people, myself included. I didn't think she was going to be able to do that, and just was unbothered and was really able to win these exchanges with Amanda Nunes in a way that I've never seen before. Amanda Nunes dominated. And on top of that, Julianna Peña was able to get her to the ground, choke her out, and win that way. This fight to me was a lot different because this time Amanda Nunes was countering on all those exchanges, was able to drop Julianna Peña 3 times during the fight, was able to bring her down to the ground, wrestle her down, had her in mount, split her head open with an elbow that ended up, contributing to why Julianna Peña had to go to the hospital after the fight. And Amanda Nunes was just very good, clean performance. I thought she won every single round. She was dominant, and she showed why she's the best women's fighter in MMA history. And I do think that, this sets up a potential trilogy, which we'll get to later. But I think Julianna Peña, all things considered, accounted for herself well. I think this fight also did show that Amanda Nunes simply wasn't on her game the first time around when they fought.
And that happens sometimes. Sometimes you're just not on your game. But considering how shocking her loss was in UFC 269 back in December, were you impressed with how dominant, as you just mentioned, Nunes was on Saturday night?
To some degree, I wasn't, because I did expect her to win, though I did also thought she was going to win by knockout. But she was able to just break down Julianna Peña completely and was able to control the fight. My concerns going into this fight was that maybe this is the beginning of the end. Amanda Nunes just lost in that fashion. She's 34. She's approaching 30 career fights. She won't be able to be at this level forever, even though she's awesome. And she's been great ever since the sort of mid-career, surge starting in the middle of last decade, maybe when she knocked out Miesha Tate and Ronda Rousey before that. Or after, whatever the case, whatever the order that was. And it's clear that she wasn't on her game in the first time. And then this time around, she was able to get Julianna Peña down and just really dominate. So I think that it's fair to say that she's still here. She's going to be here for quite a while. So I wasn't totally surprised by the performance, but I did think she needed it given what we saw the first time around between these two.
So, Bryan, in the post-fight press conference, when asked what's next for Nunes, UFC President Dana White said a third fight with Valentina Shevchenko was, quote, not a bad idea. So what do you think should be the next matchup for Nunes?
I mean, look, I think that they should do the trilogy with Amanda Nunes and Julianna Peña, but the Valentina Shevchenko thing is interesting because Valentina Shevchenko is as well-rounded a mixed martial artist as there is. You can just look at her record and see that she's 23-3. She has 8 wins by knockout, 8 wins by decision, and 7 wins by submission. You don't get more well-balanced than that. If you watch her fights now, she has a 9-fight winning streak. She also almost lost to Taila Santos in shocking fashion in June of this past year, just a month or so ago. And that was a split decision victory that she escaped from. And I thought she should have won that fight. So she won that rightfully. But the angle with Amanda Nunes is they fought twice. The first time Nunes won by unanimous decision. The second time in 2017 was a split decision. And a lot of people felt like Valentina Shevchenko, myself included, probably could have won that fight. So to see this happen third time, this would be great. They also have 75% of the UFC titles in women's weight classes right now. Amanda Nunes is not only the bantamweight champion, but the featherweight champion. And Valentina Shevchenko has the flyweight title belt. So if you can unify sort of everything, or whatever the case may be, or Valentina Shevchenko is just moving up to 135, like however you want to do it, I think that'll be very interesting. I think I'd rather see Nunes versus Peña 3 first, and then maybe Shevchenko gets the rematch with Santos, because Santos sort of earned that because that was a very close decision. And assuming that Nunes and Shevchenko are able to win those bouts, then we could see them get the trilogy perhaps sometime next year.
A lot of possibilities surrounding Amanda Nunes. That is Bryan Fonseca, one of the best out there when it comes to talking about combat sports. Bryan, thanks for joining me, man.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.